Hello everyone, and how you may see we're already on step 7 and we're going to continue our development by extending our existing GraphQL and creating a data provider which is going to collect all the necessary configuration data from the database. So first of all, we're going to modify our schema GraphQLs to gain understanding of our data structure. So let's just copy this file as we already have one. Let's go to our model schema of GraphQLs and just paste this file. As you may see, as previously, we have a social share field which is a type of social share type, and social share contains two other fields. Social share config, which is a type of social share config which contains a lot of fields. For example, enable, which is boolean, and rounded, which is boolean, size, which is string as we talked, categories, category page, product page, and home page, also boolean values. And we have providers. How you may see, the provider is going to be an object, an array of the objects, and each object going to have ID, boolean value counter if the counter is enabled or not, and additional, for example, for Facebook Messenger we're going to have application ID, and for email share we're going to have subject suffix. So that's cool. Let's go further, and what we need to create a helper folder in our model root and data provider.php file. Let's do that. Let's just copy paste this one and let's create a folder named helper and data provider .php file. Let's add it and paste our content. Let's check the namespaces if we created everything right. Yeah, looks like we have created everything right. So what we have in our data provider, we have a lot of different constants, and we're going to have a constructor which is importing the scope config interface. Is interface to fetch configuration data from the database, and we have two main methods: get social share config, which is returning an array which collects all the necessary data and assigns to the right field names, and get social provider. It looks a little bit more complex, but nothing too crazy. We have our constant array with all supported provided list. So it's going name by name and getting configuration for each of the provider. Then it is merging every array and returning the result. So what it does, it basically, first of all, it checks if the social share provider is enabled, and if it is enabled, it binds the ID and counter, right? And I think for the email it also binds the additional. That's simple. So what is going to be next? Most likely we're going to modify our resolver. Yeah, right. So let's copy paste and go to our resolver and paste everything here. As we may see, we imported our data provider class, initialize it using constructor and accessing our two main public functions and assigning to our fields another fields and our data. So let's flash Magento cache. Let's go to the Altair GraphQL. And let's build the query to take a look if we did everything correctly. So, where is our extension? Here it is. So the social share right now has one more field, social share config, which has all different fields like enabled, what next, rounded, size, I think it's going to be home page, category from the lowercase letter, category, page, and product page. And we're going to have a providers field with fields inside as ID, counter, and additional. So let's check. Let's send the request. Go to our schema and rounded, category page, additional, social share providers, social share config. I hope everything going to be right. Social share, why it is social share, social share config. Let's wait a little bit more as we just flashed our cache. Cannot query field product page, of course, because the page is from the lowercase. Let's try it again. Get social config. Call the member function social config on null. Interesting. Let's just try to delete generated folder and try it again. Oh, and here we go. Data is returned. Providers is the array of the object. Previously, of course, I enabled a couple of the providers, and here is our config. So, see you in next videos.